Hey everybody, this is GRE Bytes. I'm Davis, an educator with over 10 years of experience.
And I'm Orion, the founder of Stellar GRE.
We're here once again to bring you your weekly bite-sized episode on GRE prep and grad school admissions. Check out our top-rated GRE self-study program at stellargre.com. Use the code BITES, that's B-I-T-E-S, for 10% off all and any membership. All right, let's get to it today. So, those of you who have listened to some of our episodes before, and if you're not, I suggest you go listen to every episode that we have. You know that we've talked about a lot about the quant section, different strategies. You know that we've talked about reading comprehension strategies. You know, recently we've talked about you could have all the knowledge in the world and still not be able to take the test. And we've also even talked about this feeling, whether feeling ready to take the test is a good metric, which it's not. So one of the areas that I remember, that I know, and that I've heard you speak about in the past, Orion, that a person could always improve on and always have more knowledge and be more well-versed in is vocabulary. On the verbal section, sometimes you'll just encounter, and there are all kinds of tips and tricks you can use to process of elimination to get a sense of what a word means, but there's nothing as fast or as comforting as coming up on some like really random difficult word and being like, oh yeah, I know that. That's easy. I've got this. This means this. And you have that with clarity. And so with this in mind and to the end of learning these vocab words, there's a slew of different approaches, from just like flashcards to, quiz apps and everything specifically for GRE prep. In your last 15 years of GRE tutoring and your experience within the GRE specifically, what is the best avenue to learn vocab words? That was the longest intro I've ever done, but let's hear it.
Thanks, David. So which vocab builder app is the best? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, put it simply.
Fantastic. I think that's a great question. And you're absolutely right. This is one of those domains where you could always learn more. Modern English is the largest language that has ever existed in the history of the world, according to linguists, in terms of the sheer vocabulary. There are literally hundreds of thousands of words, and any of them technically can be tested on the GRE. We have this idea of like GRE level vocabulary, but this is sort of like a feel. There's no master list for the vocabulary that could appear on the test, unfortunately. And vocabulary exerts a ceiling on students' verbal scores more than anything else. If you don't know most of the words in the vocab-based questions, it's not going to be possible to score above a certain level on that section of the test. So you do have to learn more words to increase that ceiling. And this could be a really onerous process because, again, there are literally thousands or tens of thousands of words that can be tested, and it's a slow, grueling process to learn all those words. And most people learn vocabulary absolutely incorrectly.
Just by trying to rote memorization without context or...
Well, sure, rote memorization is extremely time-consuming and energy inefficient, but it's also not the skill that you have to produce on the test. The GRE will never ask you to define a word, ever. And yet, the vast majority of people out there are memorizing definitions.
Definitions, that's right.
This is not useful. It's not efficient because you're spending all of this energy to facilitate recall as opposed to recognition. Recall memory is harder to achieve than recognition memory, and it's also training a skill that you actually won't use. Vocab-based questions, in their essence, are really just synonym and antonym props in disguise. What you need to know is that these words kind of go together and that these words kind of don't, and you need to know a general, very low-resolution definition of that word. That's why my approach to building vocabulary is based on semantic clusters. So rather than learn the dictionary definitions of a whole bunch of very similar words, I've grouped together a whole bunch of GRE-level vocabulary under a single simplified definition.
So it's like a data compression hack to vocab. In other words, rather than learn a high resolution data dense definition to a single word, You just pin that one word with another word that you already know the definition of in your working memory.
That's correct. So, for example, there's a semantic cluster for talks too much, and in that cluster are loquacious, garrulous, logorrheic, prolix, verbose. You don't need to...
Verbose was the only one I actually know.
Yeah, and if you use any of those other ones in social company, you're going to suffer the consequences of doing so. These words are not really to be used anywhere outside of the GRE in the vast majority of cases.
I mean, my intro today was loquacious, you could say.
It was a bit loquacious, but, it's part of your charm, Davis.
Okay. So I hear you. So you're saying that Stellar GRE has this really cool method for studying vocab, which is these groupings of synonym, antonym type pairings to speed up a person's ability to learn the effective use of vocab for the verbal section of the GRE. I hear you have a dedicated app maybe coming out that's different than our full Stellar GRE preparation course.
Oh, yeah. So this is really exciting, and you're about to ask a barber if you need a haircut. So what is the best vocab builder app on the market? Well, it is Stellar GRE Vocabulary Flashcards, which is now available absolutely for free at the iOS Play Store and the Apple Store. So you can download it on both of the major smartphone platforms for $0. You do not even have to give your credit card information. So it's a completely free product.
So that's the Google Play Store and the Apple Store.
That's correct.
Great.
So what is really cool about this app? Well, unlike every single other vocab builder in those app stores, we based this app on semantic clusters. So each flashcard, rather than having one GRE word on one side and the dictionary definition on the other, you have the simplified definition on one side and the semantic cluster of words on the other. This allows you to learn 5 times the amount of vocabulary, in the time that it would take you to learn a single word completely.
And even faster if you already know some of those semantic clusters and are just pairing new words with a definition that you already know.
Certainly, yeah. I'm sure that some of those words at the very least students will know, and that will actually make their learning process more efficient. There's also a bit of an adaptability feature to this set, so students can swipe on the cards to indicate their level of mastery. So if a student swipes left on a card, it gives the information to the algorithm that that flashcard needs more review, and this will be represented to the student until he or she indicates a degree of mastery. The flashcards are collected into small decks, and once a student has mastered a deck, all of that content gets unlocked for the app's quiz functionality. The quiz functionality in this app is also really, really exciting because I've worked very hard with my engineers on something that I think is kind of sexy. Students can take an infinite number of randomly generated questions based on the content that they've unlocked thus far in the app, and this will help to consolidate and reinforce their understanding. It also kind of gamifies it a bit. So rather than just like recall dictionary definitions ad nauseum, these quiz questions also mimic the skills that you're more likely to encounter on the verbal section of the GRE, which are usually recognition-based. The quiz questions have several different formats, like, for example, being presented with a bunch of different words and asking the student to just identify which words are synonyms without any other context. That's something that will be extremely useful when encountering sentence equivalence questions on the verbal section of the GRE. There's also questions that ask you to define a word by matching the word with its simplified definition, not its dictionary definition, but its simplified definition, and also to identify which among a group of words means a simplified definition. So the point is that we're approaching mastery from several different angles, and we're doing so in a way that more closely mimics the skill that students will actually be asked to implement when they're taking the timed test.
Recognition over recall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Orion, for sharing that. That's all the time we have today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week for another bite-sized episode of Jerry Bites. If you have any topic you'd like to hear discussed on a future episode, let us know at stellargre@gmail.com. And if you're ready to take your prep to the next level, check out our top-rated GRE self-study program at stellargre.com, or check on Google Play or Apple Store for this Stellar GRE Vocabulary Flashcards app that we talked about today. You can use the code BITES for 10% off all membership, and the vocab app is free.
Absolutely free. Stellar GRE Vocabulary Flashcards.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.